morning. You're listening to the Brief Wake Up, your mindful start to the day. I am Handel, your daily coffee companion, helping you wake up informed, thoughtful, and maybe just a little amused before the day gets old. If you're commuting, corralling kids, or just standing in line for caffeine, you're in the right place. Let's get you caught up. For our health this morning, let's talk about one of the quietest success stories in medicine. A vaccine that doesn't just prevent infection, it prevents cancer. The HPV vaccine, short for human papillomavirus, is one of the few tools in modern medicine that can stop cancer before it starts. HPV is the most common sexually transmitted infection on the planet. Most of us will be exposed at some point, often without a single symptom. But for some, that silent infection can turn deadly, leading to cancers of the cervix, throat, anus, and genitals years later. Here's the remarkable part. We can stop it. In countries with widespread vaccination, cervical cancer has dropped by more than 80% among young women. The data is overwhelming. We're watching an entire category of cancer disappear in real time. And yet, the US is falling behind. Only about 60% of teens are fully vaccinated, and rates are even lower for boys. Too often, parents hesitate because they think this vaccine is about sex. But doctors say it's time to change that framing. This isn't a sex vaccine. It's a cancer vaccine. The CDC recommends starting the series at ages 11 or 12, ideally before exposure to the virus, but it can be given as early as 9 and up through age 45 in some cases. 2 shots, months apart, can mean a lifetime of protection. As one oncologist put it, if we could prevent breast or colon cancer with 2 shots in childhood, we'd never hesitate. And yet, hesitation is exactly what's standing in the way of saving thousands of lives each year. The takeaway? Talk to your doctor. Ask the question. Because sometimes the most powerful weapon against cancer doesn't come from a surgery or a pill. It comes from prevention. And in this case, prevention comes with a needle, a Band-Aid, and a future where fewer families ever have to hear the words, "You have cancer." The news is next. This morning, a major escalation in U.S. foreign policy. President Trump has ordered what he calls a total and complete blockade of Venezuelan oil, authorizing U.S. forces to stop sanctioned oil tankers from entering or leaving Venezuelan ports. Let's be very clear about what this is and what it isn't. This is not a new round of paperwork sanctions. This is the use of military power to physically enforce them. Under the order, U.S. naval assets in the Caribbean can intercept, seize, or turn away oil tankers linked to Venezuela's government, cutting off the country's primary source of revenue. And that matters because oil isn't just part of Venezuela's economy. It is the economy. Oil exports account for the overwhelming majority of Venezuela's foreign income. Blocking them tightens the economic vice on President Nicolas Maduro's regime, but it also raises the stakes dramatically. Under international law, a blockade is traditionally considered an act of war, or at least an act very close to it. And critics across the political spectrum are already asking, where is Congress in this decision? The administration argues the move is justified, pointing to drug trafficking, corruption, and the designation of Maduro's government as a terrorist regime. Venezuela, for its part, is calling the blockade illegal and says it will take the issue to the United Nations. There are global implications too. Oil markets reacted immediately, with prices ticking upward on fears of disruption. Venezuela may not be a top global producer anymore, but its crude, especially heavy crude, still matters. particularly to buyers like China. Which brings us to the larger question. Is this pressure designed to force negotiations, to trigger regime change, or is it the opening move of something harder to walk back? For now, what's clear is this. The US has moved from economic pressure to physical enforcement, and that line, once crossed, is very difficult to uncross. We'll be watching how Venezuela responds and whether this remains a blockade on paper or becomes something far more dangerous in practice. The big sip is next. For our big sip, debt, time, and the price of tomorrow. Debt is usually framed as a financial instrument, something neutral, even responsible. But as a model for human behavior, debt asks a far more uncomfortable question. Can we afford the future cost of the choices we're making today? Every time we borrow, money, attention, trust, time, we are pulling value forward from tomorrow. And the bill doesn't arrive all at once. It arrives quietly, with interest, with limitations. Debt doesn't just take from the future, it shapes it. It narrows options, it hardens paths. It decides, often invisibly, what won't be possible later. That's why debt doesn't merely predict the future, it defines it. And when your future becomes too defined, too pre-spent, too constrained, something essential begins to erode: hope. Hope requires optionality. It depends on the belief that tomorrow can still surprise us, that repair is possible, that we haven't already used up the flexibility we'll need later. This is not just about money. Emotional debt shows up as unresolved conflict we promise ourselves we'll address eventually. Moral debt appears when we normalize small wrongs, because fixing them feels inconvenient today. Social debt accumulates when systems extract more than they restore, assuming future generations will carry the cost. The danger isn't debt itself. The danger is forgetting that it must be paid, and that some debts compound in ways that cannot be refinanced, renegotiated, or deferred. So the most important question isn't can we do this now? It's can we afford to make this right later? Because once the future is fully mortgaged, hope doesn't disappear dramatically. It fades, quietly, predictably, until one day we realize we didn't lose hope, we spent it. And that's the sip worth sitting with today. The lighter roast is next. For our lighter roast, let's discuss the generosity stress paradox. There's a paradox that shows up every December, right about the time the lights go up and the credit cards come out. We want to be generous, but generosity during the holidays is stressful. We stress about how much to spend, who to buy for, whether gifts need to be equal, and whether someone is quietly keeping score, even if they swear they're not. Holiday generosity activates two competing forces in the brain. One is empathy, the desire to give, to show love. The other is social evaluation, the fear of being judged. So instead of joy, we get logistics, budget spreadsheets, shipping deadlines, that low-grade anxiety of wondering if a gift is thoughtful or just last minute. And it's not just giving. Receiving can be stressful too, because every gift carries an invisible obligation to react correctly, to express the right amount of gratitude, and to remember it when their birthday comes around. Families feel it. Friends feel it. Office gift exchanges absolutely feel it. That's the generosity stress paradox. The very act meant to reduce emotional distance can increase pressure. But here's what research and lived experience keeps showing. People rarely remember the price. They remember how seen they felt. A handwritten note, time spent together, a shared laugh over a badly wrapped present. The paradox dissolves when generosity stops being transactional and becomes relational. because the holidays aren't about keeping score. They're about reminding each other, you matter. And that's the lighter roast worth sitting with this season. Our day's commemoration is next. Today is December 17th, a date that quietly reshaped how we move, how we govern ourselves, and how we get through winter. On this day in 1903, the Wright brothers lifted a fragile machine off the sand at Kitty Hawk. The flight lasted just 12 seconds and barely crossed a football field, but it collapsed distance, changed warfare, travel, and human imagination. Most revolutions don't arrive with fireworks. They start small, wobble a little, and only later rewrite the map. December 17th also marks the beginning of Saturnalia in ancient Rome, a festival where social rules loosened, hierarchies softened, and people remembered that order needs release to survive. Even 2,000 years ago, humans understood that structure without joy eventually breaks. And in 1770, after the Boston Massacre, British soldiers were tried in colonial courts, defended by John Adams. Not because it was popular, but because the rule of law matters most when emotions run hottest. And finally, because history doesn't have to be heavy all the time, today is National Maple Syrup Day, a reminder that winter survival has always required a little sweetness. Whether it's innovation, justice, tradition, or just pouring something warm over a stack of pancakes. Progress begins quietly. Systems need pauses. And sometimes, perspective comes with syrup. Today's show reminded us that the most powerful outcomes in life often come from prevention, not reaction. Whether that's stopping cancer before it starts, avoiding futures weighed down by unpaid debt, or easing holiday stress by choosing connection over scorekeeping. We explored how quiet choices compound over time, shaping health, hope, and human relationships in ways we rarely notice until much later. And on a day that commemorates 12 seconds of flight that changed the world, we're reminded that small, intentional actions can still rewrite the future. This is Handel for the brief wake-up. Stay calm, kind, and curious. Enjoy your day, and remember to top off your cup. Until next time.